the tunnel. Let's use the tunnel.
We knew him as Fast and Furious, a California surfer.
I remember him with sandy beach hair in surf trunks, paddling out into the water.
He had the blue eyes, the blonde hair, a prototypical California heartthrob.
Turned megawatt movie star.
I thought, this young guy is so full of light. He really can act.
But so much of Paul Walker's passion was played off-screen.
He always said he was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out with the whole Hollywood game.
That's the fruits of our labor yesterday, making the scramble to Port-au-Prince.
He was a philanthropist.
These one busload of people just came in and needed help.
It was very cool to see someone on the screen who portrays this hero, and then to actually work with him and go, whoa, 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 you're actually just as big of a hero in real life.
He was a father and friend.
He's just such a lovable man.
And then the tragic crash that took his life.
We all lost a friend in this.
I can't really believe it. It's just not fair.
Tonight, in the CNN Spotlight, Paul Walker.
Get away, it's gonna blow up. It might blow up.
The car is in half. I can't tell if there's someone in there.
Cell phone video captures the horror.
He is, he's dead.
There was nothing. We tried. We went through fire extinguishers.
A day that ended in tragedy started with charity. Movie star Paul Walker at an annual event for his foundation, Reach Out Worldwide.
We were collecting toys and donations so we can distribute them around.
J.D. Dorfman runs operations for the charity Walker co-founded.
He just came out to show his support, thank everybody. He wasn't there for the pictures, just normal Paul.
Just normal Paul, pursuing two of his great passions, helping others and showing off fast cars, including this rare Porsche worth nearly $500,000.
They only brought about 600 of them into the U.S. back around 2004 to 2006.
There is nothing ordinary about it. A top speed of more than 200 miles per hour, the engine in the middle of the car, and oil changes costing $900.
It's a really finely tuned, super high performance, super car. Driving one really reminds me a lot of driving a race car. It has that kind of quick, razor-sharp reflexes.
But having razor-sharp reflexes leaves a razor-thin margin for error on the road.
I love the power. You feel it right in the chest, pushing you back when you push down the gas. But a car like the Carrera GT needs to be driven with great respect because it has so much power and capability.
This photo is possibly the last ever taken of Walker. And there is the Porsche, a temptation that would lure him and a close friend, Roger Rodas, away from the charity event. Not surprising for two men who were racing competitors and co-owners of a car customization shop. It was speed, after all, that drove Walker's fame. Fast and Furious, a cinematic fix for adrenaline junkies. Rob Cohen launched the franchise and pitched it to Walker.
It was over dinner that I said to him, I'm developing a movie. We just got going on the script, but I'm developing a movie about this, underground street racing world.
Paul Walker, obsessed with amateur racing from an early age, didn't skip a beat.
He said, I get the girl, I get the gun, I get the car, and you're directing. So I don't have to wait for the script, I'm in.
Explosions, stunts, and speed. It was a dream come true for Walker.
I really don't see how I could have more fun or making a movie could be more of a thrill than it was making this one.
One film would turn into 7, with box office receipts topping $2 billion. Theaters filled with moviegoers drawn into the action and to the lead actor for more than a decade.
He's just such a lovable man. There was something in that spirit of life and lightness that just kept coming through, and people were just very attracted to that.
Fast and Furious would become a cultural phenomenon, a lucrative global franchise of sequels, video games, and merchandise.
Feels good to be appreciated. Especially when you're talking about 10 years plus of your life.
One of the worst phone calls I've ever gotten. I was shocked, I was speechless, I didn't believe it was real.
But it was real, not a scene from a movie.
From our location, it's a little difficult to know what it was. Someone called it in, said that there was a vehicle fire.
Paul Walker, Roger Rodas, and the Porsche had not yet arrived back at the nearby charity event.
We all ran around, jumped in cars, grabbed fire extinguishers, like myself, and immediately went to the vehicle.
But time wasn't on their side. Where witnesses had only seen smoke, now there was fire. It was too late.
It was engulfed in flames. There was nothing. They were trapped. And employees, friends of the shop, we tried.
The car barely recognizable. 2 men now dead. And according to the investigation, the car was traveling almost 100 miles per hour when it crashed. Just this week, Roger Rodas' wife Christine filed a wrongful death and negligence lawsuit in Los Angeles against Porsche Cars North America, claiming the 2005 Porsche Carrera GT suffered design flaws and had a malfunctioning suspension that caused the November crash.
Scotty and Diane, they're gonna be my family.
When we return, Paul Walker before he was fast and furious.
Pick you up for practice tomorrow, okay?
Okay.
Before he raced to fame as a hero cop on the big screen, Paul Walker played adorable on TV.
But they want a little boy. And I'm a little boy. And me and Scotty are special.
Yeah, you're special, all right.
His mom had him doing a few kind of child modeling, little gigs here and there. He was never super passionate about acting as a young guy, but it's something he just kind of fell into very naturally.
The son of a model and a sewer contractor, Walker was the oldest of 4 kids in a working-class Mormon home in Sunland, California.
They were just your pretty typical normal family, but very loving, very close-knit.
Amber Leah was a childhood friend of Walker's.
Most of his friends would typically call him Pollywog. He had a contagious spirit. He was always smiling. His just effervescent personality was electric.
At 13 years old, that electric personality landed Paul a string of roles in popular 90s sitcoms like Who's the Boss?
Yeah, well, high school's no picnic either.
And Charles in Charge.
She just wanted to carry my books.
But for this quintessential California kid, acting took a backseat.
Paul Walker grew up in San Fernando Valley, and he loved surfing from a young age. He's always been fascinated by the ocean. Later, he became really into Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and he was an athlete, he was a sportsman, and he loved the outdoors. And yeah, he had the blue eyes, the blonde hair, and the California surfer accent.
How could you not love surfing looking like he looked?
Right? I mean, I think for a lot of people, he became a prototypical California heartthrob.
A California heartthrob with a thing for cars.
I remember when I got a Jetta, a Volkswagen Jetta, my senior year, and he saw my car and he said, "Oh, you know that." I'm not one who swears, but he said, "Oh, that car is bitchin'," you know, which kind of caught me off guard. But he was almost as excited about it as I was, even though I was the one who got to drive it.
I don't think there's probably anything he couldn't have done.
Walker played junior varsity football at Village Christian High School. Dean Lagasse was his coach.
I remember him playing his junior year because we weren't particularly good that particular year, but he was playing safety. Yeah. And looking back, I've coached a lot of games, but I will tell you that he had one of the 2 best hits I've ever seen in a JV football game.
Really?
Yeah. And we got clocked in the game, and we got beat like 40-0 or something like that, but he wasn't quitting.
Off the field, he kept his classmates entertained.
I would say he would be closer to a class clown than laid back.
Really?
Yeah. You know, he had a great sense of humor, and he had the smile, and so it was, I think people appreciated his sense of humor.
By the time he graduated from high school, Walker's good looks and charm landed him a role on The Young and the Restless.
I'm telling you, Ryan, you better back off and leave the kid alone.
Talk a little bit about the Paul Walker of his teenage years, because he said, I smoked bowls and kind of panhandled, and I kind of lived the transient life for a long time. I didn't really know where I was going or what I was doing.
He might have liked couch surfing here and there, and he liked traveling and going to surf for a few days and driving out into the wilderness. He spent 16 years basically living out of a suitcase.
When money got tight, Walker went back to acting on TV's Touched by an Angel.
Jonathan, head up. That's it, that's great.
And on the big screen in Pleasantville.
What's all the commotion? He played Skip Martin, this all-American, cheeseburger and cherry Coke loving basketball jock. And he was squeaky clean and a super funny role in this morality satire. He's kind of the boy corrupted or enlightened by Reese Witherspoon. He made a big impression in that movie.
The movie was a hit, and finally a decent payday for Walker. That same year, some news he wasn't expecting.
When Paul found out that his girlfriend at the time was pregnant, I think it rocked him. He went to a Christian school and he didn't like the idea of having a child out of wedlock, and it scared him. And he also knew that he was a wild guy. He said, I was sleeping with her friends at the time, and it did not seem like a good idea to be married.
With Walker focused on his playboy lifestyle, his daughter Meadow lived full-time with her mother in Hawaii. But having a daughter, Walker said, was a life changer. He buckled down and got serious.
I had a dream that we were beating Bangville 14-3.
And I think everyone started really paying attention to him when he was in Varsity Blues.
He was a supporting character that you really remembered. In Varsity Blues, he played a football quarterback who's sidelined by a knee injury. And it was a role that actually had a lot of heart in a kind of goofy movie.
But Walker craved a meteor role. He auditioned for the thriller The Skulls.
Paul came in and, at first he was like a surfer dude.
Rob Cohen was directing.
The first reading, it was more like he was, hey man, I got tubed and it was gnarly, right? And then I said, look, just say the lines, finish the endings on the words, and just do it like a guy with an education. Because this kid would have gone to prep school and all that stuff. So Paul did it again, and he nailed it. I mean, he was like really could do it. And I thought, this young guy is so full of light, he just came out of his eyes.
How they know everything we do. They know every place we go.
When we got to work on the Skulls, then I saw he really can act. He's not just a presence. He was pushing emotions out and playing conflict.
That performance convinced Cohen to develop a movie for Walker. He had Paul at hello.
I said, well, you're an undercover cop who goes underground to bust up this world.
Walker was in, and Cohen never looked back.
We shook hands that night, and no matter what other forces tried to dislodge that agreement, I stuck to my guns, and Paul became Brian O'Connor.
Damn, that guy's fast.
Coming up, Walker becomes a bona fide movie star, but proves to be much more.
Well, that's the fruits of our labor yesterday, making the scramble to Port-au-Prince, and the timing was impeccable.
It's been 12 years since Paul Walker got the role of a lifetime, going from stud wingman to leading man. Aging gracefully on screen as an action movie star, Paul Walker was also maturing off screen.
Most of us know Paul Walker as Brian O'Connor from Fast and the Furious, that kind of gorgeous, ruggedly handsome, speed demon action star. But you wrote that he was much more than that. How so?
Yeah, I think people didn't realize that Paul Walker had a full, vibrant life off the screen. He always said he was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out with the whole Hollywood game.
Outside of the Hollywood game, Walker was deeply involved in the world of fast cars. and even raced with a Hollywood club.
Hey, what's up, Paul Walker? Out here at the Red Line Time Attack.
He was a total auto head. He actually owned Always Evolving. It was a performance shop that really appealed to the car junkie that Paul Walker was.
But Paul was much more than a car junkie. He was also deeply committed to humanitarian relief. In 2010, Walker took a team to Haiti, helping in the aftermath of the major earthquake that devastated the small nation.
We asked a bunch of people what they thought we should bring.
He knew that he had to do something. No one knew what to expect, but all he knew was he was bringing medical equipment, water filtration, and he was going to do what he could. When they got there, they did so much for their first time. They were able to set up a hospital in an orphanage. And the experience that he came home with after that was, I have the opportunity to do something very special.
And Walker wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty.
You talked about the fact that he went to Alabama to help with victims of the tornadoes. Lots of people talk about things they care about. He actually did something.
He cared about other people, and he went and helped them.
We were helping clear a house. It was 100 degrees, the humidity was through the roof, and we're just working with chainsaws, just plowing through, full gear on, sweating, working hard.
But then, the homeowner realized that a Hollywood star was among those helping out.
And the emotion that they expressed, and this was someone who just lost everything, that someone, with the name notoriety of Paul would just be there working to make their life a little better without, there was no camera crew, there was no nothing. It blew their mind.
And it's interesting because he was very private. He almost remained like a mystery to all of his fans other than what they saw on screen.
Yeah, Paul Walker didn't go after a lot of press. He didn't necessarily want to be photographed. You didn't see him coming up in magazines.
Saleswoman Irene King recalls a day Paul Walker was in her jewelry store as an Iraq veteran and his fiancée were shopping for rings.
She saw something that she liked, and they were looking at it, and she was trying them on, but turns out that they couldn't afford them.
But Paul Walker could afford a $10,000 ring.
He wanted to help them out, and so he just out and out bought it for them. He went to the manager, and he was very specific about having it anonymous. He didn't want the couple to know that he was buying the ring for them.
Walker's father, Paul Sr., says the generosity wasn't only extended to strangers.
He was always doing stuff for us, always big gestures. His heart was so big. You'd go and have a family gathering and say, all the little kids, nieces and nephews with Uncle Paul. And it was always, don't worry about college. I'll take care of college. Just study hard.
Walker never finished college himself, but even as his movie career took off, his father knew Junior was ready to slow down, to become a more present father for his daughter.
And he was looking so forward to this. He wanted to take a hiatus and say, gosh, Dad, she's 15. I ain't got much more time to be with her.
Walker's words proved to be eerily prophetic, leaving behind those who loved him most, searching to make sense of his sudden death.
Action!
Friend and director Rob Cohen was devastated by the news.
He called me his movie dad, and I feel like I've lost my son. I can't really believe it. It's just not fair. That's what I keep thinking, it's just not fair.
Walker's death had a similar effect on his Fast and Furious co-stars like Vin Diesel, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and Tyrese Gibson. Diesel visited the crash site to pay his respects.
Thank you for coming down here and showing that angel up in heaven how much you appreciated him. Yeah!
Johnson took to Instagram, simply posting, "Love you, brother." And Tyrese Gibson, with whom he was particularly close.
We've seen him grieving on social media and at the crash site, and it's indicative of the fact that they were very, very tight. He had a good relationship, a very good relationship with his Fast and Furious castmates.
I'm coming home.
Days later, those castmates released this tribute.
The most important thing in life will always be the people in this room.
After his funeral and a time of grieving, production of Fast and Furious 7 resumed earlier this year. The film's producers released details with this note on Facebook. "We have resumed shooting and now welcome Paul's brothers Caleb and Cody into our Fast family. Caleb and Cody are helping us complete some remaining action for their brother and fill in small gaps left in production. Having them on set has made us all feel that Paul is with us too." The film is scheduled to be released in April of 2015. In the end, Walker left a lasting impression in life and death.
You forgot that he was an actor, you forgot that he was a name. He was a friend. We all lost a friend in this.
Focus, it's right here. It's what's important. It's of the heart, it's family, it's friends, it's the rest.